Welcome to Ultimate Survival Gear. Today with this video I wanted to start a brand new section in this channel called Ultimate Survival Sleeping System. Yes, and I am talking of course hammocks, tents, sleeping bags, mattresses, really whatever for your sleep, whenever you are hiking, whenever you're in the middle of a trip, or whenever you are surviving. Yes, emergency situation, something bad happened. You're sitting in your house, or maybe at work, or maybe you were driving in the car, or on a day, I really don't freaking care what you were doing. And something bad happened. And you had to survive, and you had to take off, maybe walk, or maybe drive somewhere, and then walk for extended periods of time. And then, of course, you had to take a rest. You had to stop and take a rest. And of course, how can you get rest without sleeping in something? So, let's start this review. Let's start this section with this review of my personal ultimate survival hiking, camping, sleeping system from Oak Creek. Yes, this is a very popular hammock from Oak Creek. The Amazon link is in the description below, and as you can see, it's open right there on my computer. It's currently $59.95 on Amazon, and I think the price is absolutely fantastic. Even if you're not a camper, even if you're not a hiker, even if you're not a survivor, get one of these and just have them in your house just in case if you ever do need to crash somewhere and sleep. Alright, before we get into the whole review, just like all of the other reviews that I'm doing on this channel, I'm gonna do it based on 8 criteria. Alright, it's not gonna be the same as the boots or some other gear, but it's still gonna be 8 different criteria. Before we get into the review though, I wanted to kind of give you a brief difference between different sleeping systems, right? Whenever it comes to hammocks, one of the main downsides of getting a hammock as your main sleeping system is that you do need trees or poles, posts, really whatever, to attach this to secure it between the two. That's the main thing. Whenever it comes to the tent, the biggest con is that you have to find flat ground, and the same thing for the sleeping bag. So really the best thing to do is, for example, if husband and wife, a couple, right, a family, husband gets the hammock and the wife gets the tent, and depending on the situation they share one of those. And yes, you can sleep 2 people in this, especially if you are under like 150 pounds, because the capacity on this is 350 pounds. Anyway, let's get into the main review, starting with the criteria number 1. And no, it's not the comfort level. No, this time it is the dimensions. Yes, of course, dimensions of these things that go into your backpack are very important. And let's start with the weight on this before we get into the dimensions. And the weight of this whole thing, now this is the whole system. This little baggie includes the hammock itself, the rain fly, and all the hardware, which I will be taking out of this bag to show you. But the weight of the whole system is 59.8, so just under 60 ounce. And I would say this would be about the standard. You don't really want to go too heavy. Don't go anything above 80 ounce for your sleeping system, because you don't want anything. Obviously, the more you can save on weight, the longer of the distances you can travel, the easier it's going to be, the less fatigue you will have from walking or running, whatever. Imagine this thing in your backpack. Alright, now the dimensions. Dimensions of this thing are approximately 12 by 11 inches, and the circumference, if that's a correct word, is about 26 inches. Alright, so again, depending on what kind of backpack you have, honestly, even if it's a day pack, something really small, something for short hikes, you can still fit this thing in without any problems. Now let's move on to the criterion number 2, the installation. How easy is this to install? Well, like I said, one of the main things whenever it comes to the installation, you want to make sure that you have 2 trees. Alright, so if you're walking in the middle of the desert and you decide to sleep somewhere, to camp out, a hammock might not be the best solution for those situations. You definitely do need trees or poles or posts, really whatever, to attach this between the 2 points. Alright, so there are a few things that you can do whenever it comes to the installation. If you do want some protection from the elements, the rain, the snow, whatever, you do want to start your installation with, well, not the start the installation with, but you do want to complete your installation with the rain fly, which is included in this particular hammock. And it is a great thing, it's a very important thing, because there are a lot of hammocks out there that do not include the rain fly, that you have to buy separately. Honestly, if you are going with the hammock, get it with the rain fly. Don't get it without the rain fly. It really does not add that much of weight or anything. In fact, I'll tell you exactly how much just the rain fly is. Let's see, just under 24 ounce, and I do have the scale here. Just under 24 ounce, and it's not that much. You do want it because it will protect you from the rain, it will protect you from the snow and from the wind as well. So that's one of the things that you will be installing, and you install it simply by attaching it to at least 3 points that you would need to have this. So if you don't have 4 points, you can use 3 points, and it will be floppy on one of the sides, but it will still give you some coverage, but preferably 4 points. So 2 points usually go on the trees that you install your hammock on, alright, and the other 2 points across, they can go into the ground or attach to any of the tree branches or the bushes. Really, as you can see me doing in this video, it really doesn't matter, but rain fly. Alright, so the second thing, or the first thing, doesn't really matter in which order you're doing that. Honestly, I would start with the hammock and then finish up with the rain fly, unless of course you really don't need it, then you can save the installation. But you start your installation with the hammock itself, and the hammock itself is extremely light. It only is about 22 and a half ounce. Very, very impressive. And as you can see, it fits into this little baggie. And the installation is very straightforward. You attach the hammock using all the hardware, all the necessary hardware is included, using these very, very nice and durable straps that you use to secure to the tree. It's not as easy as, for example, whipping out the sleeping bag. I think that's the easiest one whenever it comes to the installation itself, but on a huge plus of hammock over the sleeping bag, you are off the ground. So if insects and stuff like that worries you, or if the ground is not flat, or if there is some garbage laying around on the ground, well, you don't have to deal with it because you're not sleeping on the ground, you're sleeping in a hammock. So personally, I prefer hammock any day over the tent or the sleeping bag. Now, this particular hammock, like I said, is very easy to install. So installation is very, very straightforward. You might take you a little bit longer doing it the first time. So if you are going with a sleeping system, with a hammock sleeping system, make sure to actually try and assemble it at home, so that you know what you're doing whenever you have to actually do it. Alright, let's move on to the criteria number 3. Comfort. Yes, the comfort of sleeping in the hammock. Alright, so like I said, the most comfortable sleep, of course, you would get from a tent, because you're not restricted by anything. You can move around, you can, as long as you can find a flat location, flat ground, you can sleep like in your normal bed, as long as you have good either mattress or pads, right, for sleeping pads. The most comfortable sleep you will get out of the tent. The second most comfortable would be a sleeping bag, of course, because again you're nice. You can lay on the side. You can have all of these different sleeping positions, right? The least comfortable, unfortunately, would be the hammock itself, because the reason why it's least is because you only really have one sleeping position, and it's on your back. You can't really sleep on the side, maybe a little bit. But you definitely cannot sleep on your stomach, because by the time you wake up you're gonna be bent over backwards and it's not gonna feel good. So a hammock, of course, is the least comfortable of three sleeping system options. But with that being said, you still can get a good night's sleep in this without any problems. And if you were doing it several nights or days, I don't know if you're taking naps somewhere along the way on your hike, you can definitely get used to that and be just fine with it. Alright, so comfort wise, I personally, to me, I am willing to sacrifice a little bit of that comfort and a few of those sleeping positions to be off the ground and not deal with the dirt or with the insects or even some animals that want to sneak into your tent in the middle of the night. Let's move on to the criteria number 4, which is proofing and protection. Yes, so proofing and protection wise, again, if you are going with a hammock, make sure, if you don't want to buy this one from Oak Creek, which is fine, make sure whatever hammock that you're looking to buy, the rainfly is included. In this particular hammock, the rainfly is made out of very nice, very durable material. And I mean, you can see I use this rainfly on top of the mountain on a very windy, rainy, cold day, and it still held up very, very nicely. And I mean, I use it already probably definitely more than a dozen times, and it's still in the same great condition. Really, the only thing that you need to do when you come home is just open it up, wipe it off the moisture, because this is waterproof material, so it does not absorb the moisture. It does not, unless you wipe it off, unless you let it dry out. So once you get home, just open it up and let it dry, and you should be just fine. But the rainfly, whenever it comes to the hammock, is an absolute must. I would also say rainfly is a huge plus if you're going with a tent, just to have that extra protection over the top, and the same thing with the sleeping bag. Now all of these options gonna have their own touch of waterproofing and the protection from the elements, but in my opinion the best one is the hammock with the rainfly whenever it comes to the protection from the elements. And speaking of another type of proofing, which is very important to mention here, is the proofing from insects. This hammock actually does, as you can see, include the mosquito net. Yes, or whatever other kind of flying bugs you have net. So you are completely covered. It's nice and breathable, right? On a hot day, you're not gonna overheat without any problems, which we'll talk about in the next criteria. But this mosquito net definitely helps with those annoying flying insects. Alright, the next criterion that we have is, yes, the temperature. Okay, this solution right here is now winterproof, is not cold-proof. Really, the only winterproof, cold-proof solution that you can possibly get for yourself would be a sleeping bag, because those are insulated. The tents, they're not insulated, and the hammocks, they're not insulated either. So it means that if you are using a hammock in the winter, which you can, you have to think about some kind of insulation on you, whether it's the insulated blanket or insulated sleeping pad or a clothing, which I personally would probably go with, as long as you're wearing something insulated as a clothing accessory, right? You can sleep in this just fine and not freeze. One of the things whenever it comes to freezing, speaking of freezing, is you want to make sure that your back is protected from the cold temperatures. One of my experiences with the cold temperatures in this hammock was on top of the mountain with a freaking cold, very cold day. I was definitely underdressed for that one, and the coldest part was the back. You could feel the wind just flying underneath you, back and forth, and making it worse. So make sure that you have some kind of sleeping pad, insulated sleeping pad. That definitely helps a lot. But in my experience, there's nothing better than this hammock whenever it comes to hot temperatures. It's very nice, it's very breathable, there's plenty of air, it's not as enclosed as the tent because you have the insect net, and of course I'm not even anywhere close as enclosed as the sleeping bag. Now, difference between the sleeping bag and this, you have your face still open in the sleeping bag. So if there is some kind of creature that tries to freaking crawl into your face, it can. Here, it can't because there is a net. So, hammocks. The next criterion we're going to talk about is quality in the design feature. Now, quality-wise, I mean, this has been with me now for the past 2.5 years. I've been using this hammock, and it still is, I mean, it's still like brand new condition. So it's holding on very well. Now, I'm about 150 pounds. And this hammock is rated up to 350 pounds, so that's why I said if you are about my size, about my weight, you can definitely share this hammock with your wife, your girlfriend, whatever, right? But if you're heavier, then obviously it's gonna be just for you. But up to 350 pounds, that's plenty of clearance, I guess, for the weight, so great. And personally, I mean, of all the times that I've tested it on, and it's still holding on without any problems. And you can judge by all the Amazon reviews, which as of today, it's almost 1,000 reviews, 994 ratings, almost 5 stars. And that definitely says a lot about the build quality of this hammock. Alright, the next criterion we're going to talk about is the balance of application. Of course, the balance of application. So if this really was your ultimate survival sleeping system, would it be good? Yes, I think it's one of the best options out there whenever it comes to the sleeping system. The only downside is the only time I would say where it's not applicable for you, the hammock is not applicable to use as a survival sleeping system, is if you are somewhere in the middle of a desert where there are absolutely no trees, where there are absolutely no poles or posts where you can mount this thing in order to be able to sleep in it. In those cases, in those situations, I recommend maybe having probably tent would be better, so really it depends. But any other situation, I would personally definitely go with a hammock, and specifically this particular hammock because this is the best one that I found so far. One of the reasons being that it comes with a very good, very high quality rainfly. Because of all the reviews on Amazon, because of all the testing that I've did myself with it, because of the weight rating, because of the mosquito net that is included, and because it's so light and so compact, and because it comes with all of the stuff, all of the bags that you can put it in and be ready and have like a separate compartment in your camping or survival bag just for your sleeping system. And that brings me to the very last criterion here, criterion number 8, the price. So $59.95, $60 for this. I think it's an absolute steal. Now, I have tried a few other hammocks from a lot of different other manufacturers, $100 and above. I used it a couple times and had to return it because it was not good enough, because the net, the mosquito net was not good enough, because rainfly was not good enough, or because it did not have a rainfly. Now this for $60, I mean, it's really hard to compete, so it kind of explains all the great reviews on Amazon. So hopefully this review was helpful for you. If you are looking specifically at this Oak Creek hammock, hopefully this review was helpful in making your decision to buy it or not. And also hopefully this was useful for you to decide whether you want to go with the hammock or the tent or the sleeping bag. Now more reviews on the sleeping system will be coming this way. As I said, this is the very first video that I'm starting this whole section with. So if you are interested to see more, make sure to subscribe, hit that like button, and I'll see you guys in the next video.